The espionage case against Truong and Humphrey would take place at the Federal District Courthouse on Washington Boulevard, Old Town Alexandria, just across the Potomac from Washington, D.C. The Justice Department lead, John Martin, was overseeing the entire prosecution, but the actual work in the courtroom was done by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Alexandria. They had a political appointee, chief attorney there, and then a number of the staff attorneys who would put this on. So I spent hours and hours with them, first explaining to them the context of Southeast Asia so that they would understand what the cables were talking about. We had well over 100 classified State Department documents that had been taken and turned over to the North Vietnamese, and a number of others that we never saw. We didn't know what they were, but we had over 100. And I went through these documents endlessly, time after time after time, explaining them to the prosecutors. And so then the time for the trial came, and because I would be a witness in the trial, I was not allowed to be in the courtroom or hear any of the testimony. So I had to sit outside and wait until my day. So I remember being there and all ready to go on and be on the witness stand for a day. I was so incredibly nervous. And the day came and went, and they still didn't call me. So it was going slower than anticipated. So I had to come back the next day. And the way it worked was I was part of the prosecution. So I would go on the witness stand. Prosecutors then would go through and ask me questions. And I would describe for them what was in all of these classified documents, why they were classified, how classification systems work, and why they were important, and why they would be, why this was such a serious offense. I was coming on after the FBI agents who had been involved in the case, and the defense lawyers, and particularly one lawyer named Michael Tigar, who was a very young, dynamic, high-profile attorney. He had been involved in defending a group called the Chicago Seven, who had been protesters against the war. So he was well-known and highly effective. And he, in his cross-examination of the FBI and the other witnesses, had done a lot of damage to the case. So now I was coming on, the last government witness. The prosecutors, who were friendly, asking me questions. We finished at about noon, and we came back after lunch, and the defense attorneys then started in on me. And I would total of 6 hours on the witness stand, 4 of them with the defense attorneys, and particularly Michael Tigar, trying to take me apart. I'd never been in a situation like this before. And I quickly saw that they were endeavoring to build these logic traps. Yes, you have a good memory, don't you? And you remember this, remember that. Trap you in logical inconsistencies to damage your credibility, to undermine your capacity. So Humphrey's lawyer took the first shots, and then Michael Tigar comes on. And he is incredibly aggressive and attacking me and building these logic traps. And I'm sitting there, and I think back to a class I had at Loras College in Dubuque called Logic, 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays, from Father Stan Gorski, this tight, highly logical Dominican priest. And I remembered everything, and suddenly it was clear how, while always telling the truth, I could keep Tigar from trapping me. And so he's taking his shots, and one after the other, and is getting a little frustrated that he's not making more headway, and says, "Oh, you have notes up there." And so I had a set of notes with comments from every cable. And he said, "Do you mind if I borrow your notes?" I said, "Sure, go ahead." So he takes all my notes from me and takes them over to a table, looks at, puts them down, comes back, and starts questioning me again, asking me details about the notes, about each cable. What about this cable? And about that's reporting on fighting and revolutionaries in Laos, and so. And he's trying to show up that I don't know what's in the cables. Well, I had been over all of these cables, these classified documents transmitted from our embassy in Laos, from our embassy in Thailand. I've been through them so many times. I didn't need any notes. And he's going again and again and again. He thinks he's onto something. He said there are secret negotiations going on with China about Vietnam and Cambodia. So I turned to the judge and I said, "Oh, do I have to answer this? Because this could involve classified information." And the judge said, "Yes, you have to answer it." So I turned back to him, and he thinks he's there. He's smiling. He's got me. He's going to now reveal secrets. And I said, "No, there are no secret negotiations." I didn't want to answer because I don't want to say yes or no. Are we having any? That could be helpful to people who are adversaries to the United States. And he was so deflated. So he keeps after me. And finally, it's now late afternoon. I've been on there 6 hours. He's taken my notes from me. And he is over at the table going through his papers. And I'm there watching him. And he reaches up and he pulls at his collar like this. He's got this $500,000 suit on, this beautiful silk shirts, fancy tie, and I could see with this one sign, he was now hot, sweating, tired, and I felt at that moment that our intellectual arm wrestling, all this time with this high-profile lawyer, he hadn't gotten me, and I had put him down. He concluded a few minutes after that. The judge excused me. I left the witness stand. And that night, all the attorneys from the Justice Department, from the U.S. Attorney's Office, grabbed me, took me with me. We went out someplace in Alexandria, Old Town, and the U.S. Attorney said to me, "You're the single best witness we've had here in court in my 7 years as U.S. Attorney." And the John Martin from the Justice Department said to me, "You saved the case." Well, there was more to come in this. The trial wasn't over. The defense was going to start, but there was an incredible moment, and riding home in my car, I was on a high and listening to the radio, and the song I remember that was playing had nothing to do with the trial. It was Bad, Bad Leroy Brown by Jim Croce. Whenever I hear that song now, it takes me back to that courtroom in Alexandria in 1978, and that incredible intellectual arm wrestling with Michael Tigar during the Espionage trial.